Okay, now one common argument supporting female genital mutilation or circumcision is that it helps to control a woman's sexual urge and makes her less promiscuous.
Well, but this argument has no medical backing, I must say. In recent years, statistical evidence suggests that female circumcision is a dying practice, but it still persists globally despite efforts to curb it.
Now, let's play you this report to shed more light on the dangers of the excision of the female external genitalia.
I was small by then when they did it for me.
I wasn't aware when I was being circumcised, but as I grew up, I was made to believe that if I didn't go through it, when it's time to give birth, the baby might die.
This tradition, passed from one generation to the other, has seen brows raised and tongues wagging in rage and disbelief. I set out on a 45-minute drive to Ibadan, Oyo State, southwest Nigeria, where, according to reports, the practice is said to be prevalent. In our quest to find out about the practice of female genital mutilation in Nigeria, we find ourselves in Elekuro in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, where about 60% of families carry out this practice on their female children. All you need is 3,000 naira and it's done. I met Akonde Adedoja, a practitioner at Elekuro. I told him what health practitioners say about the practice, and this was his response.
What most people do not know is that when civilization set in, doctors showed interest in this our trade, which wasn't so during the time of our forefathers. Because at creation, God directed that male and female be circumcised 7 days after birth. We cannot say because of civilization wipe out our tradition.
I pushed further to see his work tools, and he showed me these small but very sharp instruments as well as this powdery-like substance.
So, at that journey.
Leaving Akonde Adedoja's house, I met a young lady who is a victim of female circumcision. I asked her if she will allow her female child to be circumcised.
No.
I went to another part of the state, precisely Onara, where I met Dr. Alabede. The first thing you notice is this signboard with very graphic pictures of his craft. He took me through some of the processes of female circumcision that he performs on his clients.
We place the baby on this bed. The customer will pay, and some incantation is made on the money. And the tools as well.
With these information, I journeyed back to Lagos to meet an associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology, LASUS, Professor Adetokunbo Tayo, who shared his views on the practice. I shared with him the beliefs of the traditional practitioners I met in Ibadan.
Then it was not a point of discussion, but it's now come into the focus now because of the effect that we have noticed among our female patients. Different parts of the body can arouse any woman. Will you cut off the thigh? Because the inner side of the thigh can arouse any woman.
Charting a course for ending female genital mutilation in Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world might be likened to parting the biblical Red Sea for girls and women who are at risk of this practice to get to the promised land, where there are no chances of the rights to their bodies being violated.
That was a very good question asked by the medical doctor there, because when they use promiscuity as one of the major reasons why this has to be performed, one would ask that is not the only place that stimulates a woman. For instance, there are other places. So would you cut? Very good question, I must say.
Yeah, very pertinent question there. Well, We have joining us now an anti-female genital mutilation advocate, Julius Ilori. You'll be surprised to find that it's actually a young gentleman.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. And good to have you on the show. Also joining us from Abuja is Charity Onoja, a child's rights advocate. She's also an advocate against female genital mutilation. Thanks for joining us. Good morning. Okay, I'm very curious about your involvement in this, you know, advocacy, fighting FGM, female genital mutilation, which unfortunately Nigeria has the highest, you know, cases in the world.
Yeah, it's according to the statistics, from 100 million to 144 million women has been circumcised globally, which 80% of that is from Africa. And at the moment, right now, it's happening more in the north and the western part of Nigeria. And in Osun State, presently, is like 67 to 6% in Osun State. And it means in every minute, a female child is at the risk of being mutilated.
Wow. Wow. And when you use the word mutilate, that's deliberate, to actually put it out there that that's what it really is.
That's what it really is.
That's what it is. It's not, you know, what you might want to call circumcision.
Yeah,
like
they usually call it circumcision. Yes. You know, they try to cover up using the word circumcision because they believe the word is still good. You know, when you say circumcision, you believe, okay, I think it has some health benefit. So they try to cover it up using circumcision. But the honest truth is circumcision is different from mutilation. Yeah. Circumcision is a surgical process in which you try to remove the tip of the foreskin on the male penis. It has some health benefit, which can be number one, it's reduced the risk of penile cancer. It's reduced the risk of sexual reproductive transmitted diseases. Why mutilation? The meaning of mutilation itself means desurfacing, destroying. What God has created to be perfect, you try to use your own ideology to you know, come up with, you know, due to some personal reasons, cultural reasons, and religious reasons.
All right, let's bring in Charity in here. Charity, I do, from your advocacy and your engagement with people, I know you have really come across different stories. Now, when it comes to the culture, a lot of people have, you know, seen culture as one of the reasons why this thing has been there. Yeah, it has been handed from one generation to another generation and all of that. Talk to us, how bad is the situation out there from the stories you have heard and people you have met?
Well, for female genital mutilation, I think it's a tradition that has been there for years before we were born. And people attribute it to the fact that when a woman is circumcised, it reduces the incidence of promiscuity. It makes her more faithful to her husband and things like that. And we have discovered that this practice has done more harm than good. Because apart from the pain the woman goes through, her tissues are damaged. It causes high rate of maternal mortality, and it's an abuse of the right of the woman generally. So we have, as advocates, been singing the song, hammering around Nigeria that the case of, you know, female genital mutilation should be reduced or even abolished totally. In 2015, the then President Goodluck Jonathan passed a law banning female genital mutilation. UNICEF has, you know, laws against female FGM. The World Health Organization and even other civil society organizations. What we need now is more awareness creation, more advocacy, and strengthened laws so that this can be abolished totally in Nigeria.
Let me remain with you, Charity. Debunking these cultural beliefs, really, how challenging is it in a way that in spite of all the awareness that seems to be going on as far as FGM is concerned, you know, it continues?
You know, you'll agree with me that culture is culture is dynamic, but some forms of culture in the African society is very, very hard to take off. It's just like religion. what you have been born to believe in. There are some traditions that don't eat snail. It is difficult for you to tell them to start eating snail even with technology and things. So same it is with female genital mutilation. When these myths have been believed in, it has dwelt in the society, mothers have been through this, grandmothers have been through it. How easy is it to take it off the minds of the people or the custodians of this culture that this is a harmful practice? So it is not, it's not something to be taken with kids' gloves. It's not something that can be eroded easily. But I know that gradually a day would come when it will be a thing of the past. But we need to be very patient and we need to be persistent in our struggle.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Julius, let me bring you in here now. When it comes to advocacy and actions against female genital mutilation, do you think much has been done in that regard, considering the fact that we all is becoming more understanding that, or understandable that female genital mutilation is undesirable. It's not supposed to be. The awareness is increasing, but do you think much is done to get rid of it?
Yeah, due to cultural beliefs, and in this part of the world, we have this kind of holiness ideology, that they believe that female genital mutilation, if you have done that, it means you are now holy. So sometimes when you go out to tell people, like as you can see, I'm a young guy, and when I go out to talk to women, they ask me, how old are you? What exactly do you know about this? And I've been doing this 25 years before you are born, and I did it for my grandson, did it for that. So sometimes it's very difficult for us to confuse them and convince them, for us to let them know that, okay, this thing is not good. So what I think we can do is to keep advocating and reaching out to communities that people have not been penetrating. For example, Ocean State right now. I think there is need for more sensitization, and the government need to come out hard on this to come up with laws. For example, I think what she said is right, 2 years jail term, but I'm not sure that is announced enough. People are not aware that, okay, if I do this, I can be jailed for it. And there's need for us to also go to churches, mosques, to talk to people, let them know that this is bad. Like I spoke in some schools across Ikeja local government, where, a girl walked up to me and asked me, sir, my mommy said this is good. So are you a doctor, or who are you to tell me this is not? So I just
because they believe in their parents.
Yeah, so they believe in their parents because they see them as role models. So whatever my dad is doing, whatever my mom is doing, is something that is right, which is not.
Okay, so talk to us about. I mean, you've been an advocate in this for quite a while now. What impact really is this having on not just the female child who's been circumcised? Yeah. What about the adult female who was a victim of female genital mutilation? Yeah. What outcomes have you been seeing so far?
Okay, I would like to start to discuss this from the short-term consequence. We have what's called the short-term and the long-term consequence. We have what is called the psychosocial consequence, and which is related to their psychology. You understand? So the short-term consequence basically is just them bleeding after the process has been done, bleeding, pain. Sometimes they tie them, they hold their hands, and through that process, dislocation can happen. And the long-term consequence sometimes can lead to them not be able to give birth, infertility, and staying long in the room for them to deliver. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So
delayed.
Yeah, and also it affects their self-esteem, especially the adult, because once you discover they believe they are not complete anymore, and your interpersonal relationship skill it's affected because you can't relate with your peers 100% like the way you used to, because you see yourself as, I think I'm not loved. Yeah, because it's something that is very painful. Because I watched live videos, I cried. Wow. This is really painful. Yeah.
All right, Charity, you have been working with these people. What impact would you say the advocacy over the years have been? Because one would not say there hasn't been advocacy here and there, but what impact has it been so far when you compare the impact or the effect or the effectiveness of all of this?
We have recorded tremendous success in the area of our advocacies because we have involved community structure. We do not just, apart from the legislations, we have ensured that we have created awareness in the communities with religious and traditional leaders, and you know that their voices are sacrosanct in the minds of inhabitants of these areas. So with the voices we have lent to the issues and sensitizing the communities to know the evil, the harmful effect it has on the woman from the age that she is circumcised, from 0 to 15, the pain, the issue on their self-esteem, on their sexual, drive, and even causing death. A lot of people have begun to see from the results of this practice that it is not helpful to any woman, and there are just myths around it. Nothing about it is true. It has no positive impact on the woman's life. So a lot of communities have embraced our advocacies, but yes, we still have some very, very hard soils that we need to break through. But if we have dealt with some communities and they have listened, I am optimistic that with time, with a lot of hard work, and not killing the flame at this point, we will get there. So yes, the impact has been high, really, but more needs to be done.
Yes, Charity, I'll remain with you. Talk to us. We hear that there are different kinds of FGM, 4 different types, really, that actually affect the severity of the impact. You want to shed some more light on that. And you just said there's more to be done. I wonder what more really can be done for us to put this behind us, at least minimize it to the barest level. Yeah.
I think that our legislations need to be stronger, and there should be more punitive measures brought to the open. You would agree with me that the civil society have a way of holding elected or appointed officials accountable. So in societies where these things are practiced among some Hausas, some Igbos, Ijos, and Kanuri, I think that we need to bring it to the front burner so that we go to these areas and not just make it a thing that we need to desensitize them of, but let us make them aware that it is a crime against humanity. It abuses the rights of the woman, and it is punishable by law. So aside, I think it is a holistic, multidisciplinary approach we need to bring to bear. Apart from our advocacies and sensitization, we also need to bring in the part of the law to ensure that, look, this is not supposed to happen. And should it happen and you are caught, you are liable to be punished by the law. I think that when that component comes into it, it has greater impact. And that is why I said there is need to do more. And that is why we need to make that decision, not to just advocate, but to bring in the law into it so that people will be aware that it is not just something we are appealing for, but let them be aware that it is a crime punishable by law.
All right. We can't talk talk too much about this issue, especially when it has to do with religious leaders and traditional leaders being involved, because Charity was talking about how people revere words and instructions from their religious and traditional rulers and so on. Now, in your advocacy, how involved do you bring pastors and imams and then also traditional rulers into this advocacy?
Yeah, what we have done is to reach out to them, tell them what the problem is, and let them know how we tend to come in. So we go to them and they give us approval to come to church to address the church members. And same thing is done in the mosque, but sometimes we face challenges because they will tell you, do you know what you're talking about? Like, this is something that has been going on for years. So how do you intend to convince people to stop? So it's always the problem. Sometimes.
Do you find that there's a link between this and maternal mortality, which Nigeria has one of the highest burdens, if not the highest burden in the world? Is there a link?
Yeah, there's a link because, during the surgical process, they cut out the place that's supposed to bring out the baby's head. And sometimes it's allowed them to stay long in the labor room. And sometimes when they get out, they stay in the hospital for weeks before they can recover, and some can even die.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Shows you how serious it is.
Yeah, Julius Silori, anti-FGM champion, trained by the United Nations. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
And of course, Charity Onoja is an advocate against female genital mutilation. Our guest right there in Abuja. Wish you the very best as you continue your advocacy. And hopefully this time next year we can record some successes. Thank you so much for joining us.